Hello and welcome. We are collectively known as Game Dev London, and firstly, I'd like to thank EGX for inviting us to give this talk here today. And it just so happens today that our talk is going to be about striking that work-life balance. Do we have one? Can we have one? And how do we do that? So let's dive straight in with a few intros. First off, I am Stuart DeVille. I'm one of the directors of Game Dev London.
Hello, my name's Jade Liam Triscoll, she, her pronouns. I'm an audio producer at Silver Rain Games.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Chaplin, also she, her pronouns, and I'm a consultant at Robot Teddy.
Hi, I'm Chris Payne, he, him, and I am the Managing Director of Quantum Soup and a host of Game Dev London.
Nice. So, we're going to top today off with, do you get enough sleep? What's your sleep pattern like? How do you make sure that you're getting that sleep? Let's start with you, Chris.
You had to come to me. I do not get enough sleep, no. One of the issues with running a studio where everybody works from home, which I've been doing even long before COVID, is that it is very, very difficult to stop working, especially when it's my company. And so, yeah, I have a tendency to work late and then find that I'm having difficulty getting up early in the morning. So, I mean, I should be more disciplined about it. But it's quite hard to sort of like drop all of the things that are in your head in order to pick them all up in the morning. So I should probably begin to formulate some habits that help with that, shutting everything down and then starting fresh in the morning.
I have a massive problem with that. I literally will go to bed like fully. I'm ready. I've been preparing for bed for 5 minutes. I'm there. I'm lying down. I'm going to sleep, and my brain will go, "Oh wait, you should." That's a thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to get out of bed, go write it down, just write it down, don't do anything else. Now I'm at my computer. I could just do it. It's really bad. How about you, Melissa?
I'm inconsistent with sleep, I would say. So I've been much better recently, actually, because I've started keeping track of it. I got a smartwatch that tells me how much sleep I had, and it's really made me a bit more conscious of it and a bit more disciplined of like, okay, if I want to get enough sleep, I need to kind of shut down and so on. I used to really struggle with sleep because anxiety, like clinical anxiety, not like not just feeling anxious. And what I found works for me, and your mileage may vary depending on what kind of person you are, is I need a blackout eye mask. Otherwise, I will look at screens and I will like think about kind of stuff I need to do, and I will scroll the internet endlessly. So that it's psychological as like a barrier. And then the other thing that I found very helpful is to put on a podcast, because having something to listen to that distracts me is really great. And this is a great moment to plug the Game Dev London podcast, where you can listen to all of our lovely voices to soothe you to sleep. So that's what I do. I generally speaking, I try to go for fictional podcasts, not games dev related ones, because I don't want to kind of be thinking about work as I go to bed. Yeah. Hello from the Magic Tavern is the one I'm working through at the minute, oldie but goodie, and the Adventure Zone as well, I'm a big fan of. So things like that are just a bit of escapism.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad for that too when it comes to podcasts. Even listening to our podcast before I go to bed, I'm like, I'll just, because it's good to know how we sound to other people, and then by the end of the episode, I'm like, we made some really good points there. Maybe I should make some notes. How about you, Jade?
I'm actually all right. I was really erratic like many years ago, but I think I'm just gonna like plug in with the whole like having an app or like a smartwatch or something to help monitor your sleep is really helpful. There is one app that I actually use, and it's called Sleep Cycle, and I've been using it for like since my university days. But basically, it would monitor your sleep phases, so whether you're in a deep or light sleep, and then when you have like you put an alarm, and it would monitor when you are in a light state of sleep around that time for your alarm. So it would sound the alarm when you're light stage, and then you just don't feel that awful grogginess, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's nice. You don't just feel awful at the beginning of your day. And it's just really good because it can monitor like, oh, how efficiently are you sleeping? Like, are you like a really noisy sleeper? Like, do you snore a lot? And it's just like really interesting to get that data like at the end of a month or a year, or for me it's like 5 years, and be like, oh, there's a period like in this year where you just slept really awful, or like you slept really well in this country when you went to visit. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So yeah, a lot better now, and especially with working at Silver Rain, I'm definitely more disciplined with the whole 9 to 5 hours now, and it is really helpful, especially when you're working with other people on a strict kind of schedule like that. So yeah, I guess it's enough sleep. Still dealing with like, just being generally anxious as well because COVID and a lot of other things, but it could be a lot worse, and I'm really thankful that I have an app there. So yeah.
App sounds like a really good idea. If I didn't have two baby boys that were also culprits in keeping me awake even last night, like my son had his birthday party today, so he was super excited last night. Getting him to sleep was an absolute nightmare. And then when he was asleep, he woke up like halfway through the night. And then obviously the baby wakes up quite a lot. So I would love to have an app. I just don't think it's going to help me at this point. So continuing on this theme, how do we try and best separate our work from play, or what? Yeah, especially when you're working a job. I'm speaking from personal experience here. I would assume it's similar for you guys. We work in game development because we love working in game development, and I would happily stay up late night with anyone who wanted to talk to me about game development. So how best do we try and, because we love it so much, how do we pull away from it? And let's start with you on this one there, Melissa.
So I did a couple of different career paths before I got into games, and I was a teacher, and I worked in fashion for a little bit. And what I learned is that pretty much every job, to an extent, will try and convince you to give extra time on the basis of passion. If when you're teaching, you don't want to stay late every night after work, then you don't care about the kids, clearly. In fashion, you're just meant to be lucky and thankful to be there. So you should be doing extra work just to show that you deserve to be near expensive clothes. Games is no different. There's always going to be like a bit more that you can do. But what I've learned is that it's important to set those boundaries and not, overwork myself, because then I won't produce high quality work and it's not sustainable. One thing I found when I was teaching is that I was working an unsustainable amount. I mean, I was staying up until 1 a.m. working every day and getting up at 6 a.m. to get ready for work, routinely. Right. And I remember thinking at the time, I was 22 and I was like, I am young and healthy. I have no dependents. I don't have children or, adult parents who need care. And I can't do this. So I definitely need to get out of this quickly. And I think that that kind of scare of how intense that was really, made me quite firm going into other things about where my hard lines in the sand are. Also, my husband's an accountant, and with accountancy, no one expects you to be like super passionate and love it in that way. Apparently, so with him, there's none of that like, but you've got to do it for the passion sort of pressure, and that always helps to give me a bit of a reality check on what's normal and expected.
Right. How about you, Jade?
I actually think that despite we spend I feel like almost all my life on a screen. So whether it's for work, for entertainment, and now social media and socializing, like being on Discord, being on Slack, I find that the best way that works for me to help separate that is to actually like be quite analog. So, I got my diary here. I started bullet journaling. I bought like all these fancy like highlighter pens, and it does help me like switch off from like, oh, there's a notification happening on social media. Oh, you have a new email, and actually writing it down with an actual pen or pencil, and then the physicality of crossing things out or highlighting it, I felt does help ground and anchor me of like, okay, this is your day to day. That's fine. How did today go? What did you eat today? Like really small things like that, like small data tracking things, which the internet doesn't need to know that. only I need to know this on my in my notebook kind of thing. And I do generally feel like that has helped separate a lot of things where like whatever I write in my notebook is just for me and my eyes only. And I do find that really, yeah, helpful in that separation. So I don't know, maybe it might work for you, but I do feel like it has worked for me now that I can think about it like, oh, I don't necessarily need to change my whole system of like note taking or anything, but it's more like, let's just start data tracking things and seeing what happens. And then through that, I got more into it. Be like, oh, did I exercise today? Tick. Did I drink enough water today? No, X.
Right,
Really
right.
small things like that. And yeah, now that has helped like almost defrag my mind a little bit. So yeah, that's basically what I do now.
Yeah,
Have diaries.
I find like I do everything on my phone. I've got my notes are on my phone. Every app for everything that I like, Slack, Discord, all on my phone. At one point, I got quite good at making sure the notifications that I received were only if someone atted me, or if it was another human messaging me, as opposed to, oh, someone's liked your picture, someone's like,
Yeah.
all of those notifications that just don't mean anything. I've probably slipped a little bit since I did that, because that was like 5 years ago, and I've added even more social media apps to my phone. But yeah, how about you, Chris?
Uh, the one thing that I've heard about that I have kind of partially taken on board is the idea of going out for a little walk to work before you start, even though if you're working from home.
Mm,
I'm not disciplined enough to do that in the morning, but especially during the summer, it's great at the end of the day to be able to go out for a walk with my daughter, and that is gives us a bit of chat time when neither of us are distracted by screens. And it also creates a kind of like a separation between me being at work and now like being with the family. So that has been quite helpful. Obviously, it's not so good during the winter because I'm much less inclined to want to actually go out.
right, yeah.
Relatable.
So, some of us here obviously are supposed to manage our own schedules and our own teams of people and stuff. But I'm sure we've all had experiences where you've worked in an environment where you've got a heavy work schedule, you've got lots of meetings happening throughout the day, you're still expected to do the work that you've been given, and normally someone else will pop in and go, "Oh, this has happened just now. Can you add this to your workload?" How do you guys cope with these heavy work schedules? And let's swing this back the other way and start with you again, Chris.
Okay, that's proved a challenge. I've actually started tracking my time recently with an app called Rescue Time, which tracks how long you spend on different applications on your computer within working hours. And it breaks it down for you. That has been illuminating because, for example, I'm a programmer by trade, but I am running the studio. It turns out, according to Rescue Time, that I am only doing about 2 hours of actual game dev during a typical day, and then 6 hours of meetings, admin, various other bits and pieces, and that is, I think that's about par for the course for running a studio, because the biz dev and admin does consume a lot of time, and managing the team. So I think you've if you're managing your own schedule, you've got to acknowledge what you can physically get done in the time. And even though I've got the skills to do coding, I don't have the time to do coding anymore. So I've got to delegate that, even though it's something that I can do.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I have a similar issue with, well, I run, obviously, I help direct and run Game of London. I also run my own indie studio, and I tend to find that there's a lot of meetings that I have that probably aren't particularly necessary, but they're like, there's potential in them, especially when it's like networking with someone who might work with us in some way. We might, yeah, partner up or something. If there's any of these meetings can like stack up very quickly. People emailing me all the time going, "Oh, hi, I think it would be interesting if we could have a 5-minute chat. It's never a 5-minute chat. Don't accept it. Always book in an hour, even if they're saying 5 minutes. Just give yourself, say no. There's an hour gone there for sure. How about you, Melissa?
So yeah, I totally relate to that. It's definitely something that I've experienced, having kind of back-to-back meetings, and that piece of written work that you need to get done, or whatever it might be, the kind of big project keeps getting shoved to one side, because it's always important but never urgent. So what I have found that I have to do is to clearly book into my diary, like when I'm working on certain things, as if it's an appointment with another person. Make an appointment with myself to get something done. And that's something that means that, like, people view it as, oh, Melissa's busy at this point, like, I'll not book it in here, which is helpful if you have someone else booking your meetings for you, or if people might just be stressing a time based on your calendar. It also just means that for you, it's very clearly delineated of, this is my time, and overestimate how long everything takes, just as you were saying. If a 5-minute call is never going to be a 5-minute call. And likewise, 20 minutes of writing is never actually going to be 20 minutes of writing or coding or, whatever. So always try to overestimate how long things are going to take you, and leave some blank time, because we are all humans and we need to do things like, get up and stretch our legs, make a cup of tea, all those, human comfort needs that sometimes we forget when we're scheduling.
Yeah, for sure. I sometimes find that, especially for me personally, I have to like ramp up into a task. I can never just be like, I was doing that, boom, let's do this. So there's normally like, I'll go make a cup of tea. I'll drink that cup of tea and I'll be like, I'll just have one more cup of tea, and then my head will probably be in the right space. Maybe I can check some emails while I'm thinking about it, and then I get into it. And even then, like 10 minutes, especially if it's like writing something, like for the first 10 minutes, I'm like, I should be and then like you say, after like 5-10 minutes, I'm like done, and then I look at the time and I'm like, oh, okay, so that was about an hour. Good. How do you find it, Jade?
That this is all really interesting, because like I feel like now I'm coming in from a producer role, and I think just in general, just from organizing so many events for Game Dev Lunch, which is now Game Dev London. So like, coming in from the events background, I tend to just like try to document everything, write down all my questions, and then when it comes to the meeting, I try to make sure, like, we follow the agenda, all the necessary questions are answered, so it's less of a faff, because time is so precious, and yeah, you can't get that back. So I do try to help like streamline it. I try to forward plans so that, do we have action points which is ready for the next meeting, so we don't leave the meeting with like, oh, that was a good chat, and we vibe great, but I don't quite understand what I needed to do, or the action points weren't that clear. So yeah, coming in from that angle, it's mostly just forward planning and also communication, and just making sure that everyone understands there is space for questions to happen, and then everyone walks away with a very clear image of what to do, or like timeframes, like, okay, I have this time frame to work on this thing, or ask more questions. So then when we have the next meeting, it's less faff, and then it's generally more efficient that way.
Yeah, I like having agendas for meetings. I'm not very good at writing them, but I'm very good at sticking to them when they're there.
That's okay. I would write them for you.
So I'm sure we've all been in that situation where you're at work, whatever job that may be, and you're having a good day or whatever, and your boss has come up to you and they've given you something which is technically or absolutely isn't part of something that will come under your role, your title. I've had it quite a few times in the past. I would say that what I've tended to do is just be like, okay, yeah, sure, fine, like, why not, I'll just do that. And obviously it gets you brownie points, but I think for the most part what ends up happening is your boss goes, oh, that I can do that to you, okay, let's do more of that. And I end up after about 4 years leaving because that feels really bad. Have any of you had a similar experience like that, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, definitely kind of earlier jobs, that's the thing that's happened. Or people have, advertised for one job spec, and actually that's not what they need. You know, my background's in marketing. The amount of people who advertise for a community manager when actually what they need is a head of marketing is staggering. Genuinely, I read so many job descriptions, I'm like, that is not the title that you've put to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was very common indeed. I think that, you know, it depends on the context, and you have to kind of take things on a case-by-case basis. If someone's asking and they know it's not really something you're meant to do, but it just needs doing, and you're the person who can fix that problem, you know, then I don't object to that. If it's, though, that I have a full workload and that's going to prevent me from getting other things done, I would need to have a clear conversation at the time where I was asked and just say, you know, I can handle this, but it is going to mean that I have to deprioritize this other task, and that will not happen, you know, in that time frame, and things like that. That kind of clear communication, I think, is always really helpful. I think sometimes it's possible to kind of over egg that a bit, and you know, people get a bit impatient if you do that. But I think it's just, as long as you're being kind of honest and acting in good faith. And you'd hope that other people are as well. If you don't think that other people are acting in good faith, then you should be looking for another role anyway, really, regardless of whether or not, you know, that specific instance is going to snowball into a bigger problem as you describe. I would say that if you suspect that they're going to, you know, take advantage, then really that's everything you need to know, and you should be kind of considering what your next steps are. Much better to consider that, you know, for anyone who's like, oh God, listening to this, like, my work-life balance is terrible because I'm being exploited and I'm in a horrible job. Like, start looking before you're desperate to leave for something else. You know, there are lots and lots of places where people post about kind of games opportunities that are, you know, very active. So anyone who's feeling burned out and listening to this because they're feeling burned out, that's also something you should consider that might help.
Yeah, for sure. Chris, I know that obviously you run your own studio. Do you find that you do this to yourself quite a lot?
I am a terrible control freak, and I'm constantly volunteering myself to do tasks that other people could do, but I just want to do them because then I've done it the way I wanted it done. That's a terrible bad habit that I need to get out of, and it requires. It's a difficult thing to just to actually do, to delegate things that you know that you could do to somebody else, and trust that they will do it as well, or potentially train someone else to do things the way that you're happy with them. That's been a difficult transition for me. I will say, going back to your point about procrastinating, though, what I have found is useful is breaking up. If you've got a big task that's not terribly exciting, breaking that up into sort of like smaller half an hour a day slots over the course of the week or something, so that you go into it without that expectation of having to finish it. You just have kind of like, okay, I'm going to spend half an hour on this, so I'm going to see what I get done in half an hour, and so on. And that, it frees you from that expectation of yourself that I have to get this spreadsheet finished today, and then trying to work on it until it's done, because you can do it. It becomes. I find that I procrastinate a lot when I've got sort of like tasks that I am apprehensive about, or something. So chopping those up and going sort of like, okay, well, I'm just going to do half an hour on that big scary task. You can, once you've started on it, it's usually a lot easier to continue.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've found, like, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've got a lot better at not being such a control freak, and especially now, like, I kind of have to remind myself, I've like brought people on board who can do this better than I do. Like, yeah, I can do it, but I've actually been getting people who are better than me, so it is a good idea if I give it to them now, rather than be like, but I want it to look this way, and they're not going to make it look that way. They're going to make it look better. Is the real truth. How about you, Jade?
And basically what Melissa's been touching on upon is just basically very, very clear communications, but also expectations. If you are the person asking a favor of another colleague, for example, or even receiving this task, and yeah, just making sure like, oh, is this expected from me from now on, or or my skill set may not be suitable, but I'm more than willing to help support you for the time being. Communication goes both ways, and I think that's what really cultivates and fosters a really healthy relationship, and also towards a better studio culture as well. I think it's if you are the person like a head of a studio or like a line manager or something, I think it's also like a really good practice to maybe ask someone who's more junior, like, oh, this isn't expected for you, like forever, but maybe it's more like, oh, we are low on staff today. Are you able to help support in this and, look after this until we have more support or whatever? I think, it just goes both ways that, clear communication, expectations, and then there's no like, oh, I thought you want to do it. Oh, I thought it was just you. Yeah, it just reduces all of that faff, I guess. I'm very against faff. When again, it's all about it's respecting each other's times, and it's not just time for now, but also time in the long run, like for next week, next month, next year. So yeah, really big on communication, just for everyone, and setting clear boundaries and expectation. I think is really, really good.
Yeah, it's always good to get all of those conversations in early. Like the second you start working with someone, really, you want to be like, so here's what I feel like my boundaries are, or even like, here's the workload that I think I'm going to put on you. How does that sound? How does that feel? Does everything in the job spec that you've read, does that feel all like things you can and should be doing? Because sometimes, you can create, well, from my perspective of managing people, you can create a job spec and you can be like, well, this is what that job would cover. And then you talk to them and they're like, actually, I've not done that in my role before, and I'm not sure why I would. And you can be like, oh, okay, that totally makes sense. Maybe I should be doing it, or maybe there's someone else in the team that should be doing it. I think so. There's the best bit of mental health advice I think I've ever had actually came from you, Jade, and yeah, surprisingly enough, and it was rest, dude. Get some rest. Just stop. Why you need to stop? You're doing stop. And I was like, yeah, okay, I might do that. And then luckily for me, my partner was like, I've booked us a holiday and we're going. And I was like, oh, I was gonna work during that period of time. No, you were going on holiday. Oh, okay. I managed to only do a couple of emails while I was on holiday. But I still did, and I felt really good for having a break. So yeah, following from that, Jade, what has been your best bit of advice from someone else, obviously?
Yeah, I think me telling you to rest too, I think that was a very, very special circumstance. I think it's obviously it's easier said than done. I could say like,
for sure.
Just go outside, be in the sun, be happy, and like it's not a one size fits all. I think it's very much you need to definitely create a situation, or try to be in a situation where you are able to maybe step back and recalibrate and reassess where you are, kind of thing. Because again, everyone works really differently. People rest in different ways as well. It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to lie down for a bit. It can literally just be like mentally resting as well as physical resting.
Yeah.
So I guess like I experienced like really heavy burnout. Actually, I'm still in burnout. Really, it's for different things, and I'm really lucky and privileged to be in a position where I'm working full time at Silverware Games, and because I'm in this really like safe position with everyone, like work is safe, I'm financially safe, therefore everything else in my life feels safe, and I'm able to step back and feel like, oh, as a freelance composer, I haven't really been writing any music for myself, and that really scared me. But because I'm in this really safe position, I'm able to step back and try to, I guess, fix or reevaluate or try to be a bit more positive with my relationship with writing music. So that is like I'm able to like step out and like I'll just teach myself the guitar a little bit because it's fun, not
Mm.
because it's for work or it's well maybe long term it is for work, but I'm really happy that I'm not in that mindset. So yeah, it's again easier said than done. Like if you are in a situation where you are able to step back and work on making yourself better or healthier and all that. But yeah, that's try to do that if you can. It worked for me, so yeah.
What's been the best bit of advice you've received, Melissa?
I mean, I think in terms of mental health advice, it would probably be disingenuous for me to pretend the best advice and support I got was not from medical professionals. During my PhD, I got really bad clinical depression and anxiety. And I didn't actually realize how ill I was until I got the results of my kind of diagnostic back. And this is a few years ago now. Um, I'd gone into the doctors for something totally unrelated, a problem with one of my ears, like really minor. Got into the doctors and I had a sobbing breakdown in the GP's office about just all of the stress. PhDs are, they consume your life. And almost every single person I know who's gone through one has had some sort of mental health issues to some degree. Some very severe, some more mild. But it's a perfect storm. And I was very lucky that I had a phenomenal GP who I actually thanked in the acknowledgements of my thesis. And when I did manage to submit it, I took that back to him. The advice that he gave me was that there is treatment and help available. So there's levels of burnout with work-life balance that are kind of normal that everyone goes through. Mm-hmm. There are also, points where something has become a pathological problem and a medical problem. And what I would say to anyone who feels like that is that there is absolutely no shame whatsoever in seeking support for that. There is good help available. It's not like hopeless. It's very easy when you're feeling depressed or burned out to think that that is just how life is and that's how things are going to stay. Actually, you know what? I did really well from cognitive behavioral therapy and some, SSRIs. I took sertraline for a few months and felt much better. And I feel very strongly about talking about that publicly. I've talked about it in other talks as well, because I felt so stigmatized before taking medication. I was very resistant to it, and it helped me get better. And I could have been better so much sooner and felt better so much sooner. And now I'm at a point where I'm fine, and I don't need any sort of medication or intervention. Part of that comes from actually having a healthy work-life balance, which I didn't when I was doing the PhD. But also that treatment helped pull me out of a pit that I got myself into. So the best mental health advice I ever had was when my GP said, these are good drugs, and you should try them and feel no shame in that, because it worked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. I've had similar experiences in my life where if I hadn't gone to see a doctor, I actually don't know what would have happened. And yeah, the best part of that I had was going through therapy and speaking to a medical professional on a regular basis, and then just being like, you're not crazy. Like, it's just life can be hard, and here's why you might be feeling that, and just kind of like asking yourself why. I think we went through this thing that's kind of like 7 steps of why. So you start off with, I feel like this. Well, why do I feel like that? Because of this. Well, why is that? And then by the time you get like as far back as you can get, you're like, oh, this is all. It almost feels like you're being silly, even though it's completely valid and like, yeah. But yeah, getting professional help is definitely the best.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I didn't realize how much I was struggling until actually quite some way into treatment. I picked up on all these things that I'd been doing that I had no idea I was doing. So even if you think it's a possibility that it might be helpful for you, definitely try it. Because I got like a few months in and then realized, this is like a really silly example, but I developed all these compulsive behaviors to accommodate my anxiety. So whenever I was out of the house, I was checking my purse was in my bag like every 5 minutes. And I didn't even realize I was doing that until I was quite some way to getting better. So yeah, if you're all concerned in any way about your mental health, please, 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 like, use medical resources. Like, they are really, really helpful.
Yeah, because I mean, as human beings, we're kind of built to deal with stuff, and it just becomes like a new normal, much like lockdown has for a lot of people. And I know that coming out of lockdown is going to be a whole wave of problems for people. because it's very easy to become acclimatized to this new situation that we're in, but it's not very easy to be like, oh, flip, let's go back to normal. What's the best bit of advice you've ever had, Chris?
Well, I can credit most of my good work-life balance practices. I can credit to my producer, who is very good at keeping me honest about basically stopping to rest and also being realistic rather than optimistic about what I can hope to accomplish in a given week. That has really helped me to be a bit more honest with myself and not kind of plan to get a million things done and then be frustrated that I only got 1,000 things done.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can't pick any specific thing, but there was a lot of advice that has already been mentioned, such as getting some rest, getting sufficient sleep, and so on, and that chopping up tasks into smaller pieces also came from my producer. Shout out to Jill, she's great.
It's a lot to consider. It's a lot to kind of figure out, especially when it comes to work and there's so many different tasks that you have to do. It can just get on top of you really very quickly. So we're going to move on to any final closing points to wrap us up on how to improve our work-life balance. For me, I don't know. I'm probably the worst person to ask. I'm kind of very well known as a workaholic, even to the point where right now, although I'm running 2 startups, technically I've joined another one. But I'm studying a degree in UX at the same time because I just wasn't busy enough. But I think for me, in with that, making sure setting expectations correctly for each day, because I have probably at least 5 tasks from each of those things, and I look at that list and I'm like, today, no. Uh, maybe one of these lists can get done today. Maybe 3, maybe 2 of these things on that one list can get done today, and then tomorrow, and then I just try and shift the priorities of those tasks to the top, and then some of them, by the end of the week, then they didn't happen, and they're never going to happen, and I just have to accept that and move on. Any final thoughts from you, Jade?
Ooh, so my number one would always be like communication. Because once you communicate, then you can figure out, okay, these are my boundaries and then expectations, and then you can go from there. But I also actually think creating through communication, you can create really good systems. So, like for example, we all work in Game Dev London. We're still learning, but also we're trying to be better at like creating really good systems so that everyone will know, okay, these are my expectations, and then you can communicate. But the system is there so that we as the Game Dev London ship, we can still make cool things, and everyone's still really happy and all of that. And then you can always like walk away from it, and then you can have your own system for yourself. Like for myself, it's having my diary, and then having my bullet journaling, and that just makes it more efficient for myself. And I can like, okay, mentally I've done that thing, I can move on. I don't need to keep still thinking about that thing. So the new thing that I'm working on is not quite like fully in my focus. So yeah, big fan of communication, and then through that creating really good systems that would hopefully work for everyone. Yeah.
And how about you, Chris?
I have developed a fun trick for defeating the mid-afternoon slump, which is 15 minutes of Beat Saber.
Oh, nice.
I imagine that you could substitute going for a short walk or on an exercise bike or something like that, but just just stopping for like a screen break, say, or strapping a screen to your forehead. But just that 15 minutes of exercise gets the endorphins flowing, and then you can go back to your desk and you're actually like awake again, and it really helps.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I might try and do something like that, because I do find I've actually put a poster up on my wall. I say poster, it's handwritten bit of A4 paper that says after 9 p.m. It's right there. You don't work well. It will be bad work, mostly. So, so I try and make sure I switch off by 9. How about you, Melissa?
In terms of kind of getting through the days, my treat every day is that I go and buy myself an expensive takeaway coffee from one of the many cafes that I live near. It's both my treat in terms of sugar intake and also in terms of getting through the afternoon. And then I can sit and kind of drink that at home and pretend I'm in an office, which it's a small pleasure, but it gets me through the day. I have all sorts of ludicrous coffee orders, like pistachio Spanish iced lattes and things like that. So that I recommend to everyone. No negative health consequences whatsoever. The other thing that I think is underrated, and it's often the first thing to go when people get busy, is fiction. Is such a great treatment for anxiety, for burnout, for stress. Reading, listening to, engaging with fiction is phenomenal. It's such an escape. And I did my first degree in English, and one of the things that I've noticed that goes as soon as I become a bit stressed and busy is I stop reading. And I start to feel better when I do, and force myself, even if it's the absolute trashiest, like nonsense book that you can find, as long as it's something that keeps you turning the pages and keeps your brain engaged, it has such a great effect across the board on, so many aspects of life. So read fiction.
That's great. Brain food, essentially. Feed your brain, not just your body. I like it. This just leaves me with, I'd like to thank everyone again for having us. I'd like to thank my guests, obviously, for coming along today. We have been Game Dev London. If you'd like to learn more about Game Dev London, haven't explained any of that just yet. Game Dev, you can visit gamedev.london. We're basically a game development community. We do a lot of things for game devs. We host digital events at the moment. We will get back to doing physical events, hopefully towards the end of the year. We also... amongst those events, one of those is a CV and portfolio review from a recruitment specialist. We're basically just trying to help anyone who wants to get into game dev or who is in game dev and is looking for the next step up or whatever. Or if you just want to talk about game dev, just come along and join us. We also have Twitch live streams, and we drop a podcast every Monday. We're doing a lot of stuff. Come and say hi. Hope to see you around. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.